we have to live under that they exempt themselves from. Okay, but we have such a hard time with the idea of a basic income as just another method of skinning the cat. Because, like I've said before, I'm a capitalist, but I'm a true capitalist. I'm certainly not a crony capitalist. That's the opposite. So why would I do that? Well, I prescribe to free market supply and demand capitalism, where the government doesn't interfere, especially when it's going to raise your cost of living tax. So that 2008 bailout that horrendously raised your cost of living tax. Housing would have plummeted much further than it did if we had a true market correction. If true capitalism had prevailed, that's what we would have seen. We would have seen loans forgiven. We wouldn't have seen people losing their house in foreclosure. We would have made sure they stayed whole, and the banksters that acted, delinquently, that's not even the right word, but they acted very well. I guess you could use that, but they acted exceedingly imprudently. Let's put it politely, okay? And by overextending themselves and lending recklessly, they knew it. It's not like this was just incompetence, okay? These people did it deliberately, with deliberation. Derelict, that's the word I was looking for. Delinquent, whatever. Um, but, that's not capitalism. I favor that over a basic income. That'd be nice. But you see, in short order, what would happen is that $5 would turn to 10, and then the next year it turns to 20. Not to be too hyperbolic about that, but in order to make the point, you understand that's what happens naturally, organically, automatically with true capitalism. Your currency, that's progress under that economic theorem. Okay, is that the progress is defined by your currency increasing in worth. That's evidence. That's the litmus test. That's the proof. That's the metric. That's the gauge for whether you have true capitalism, is that you have this slow, steady increase in the worth of your currency, which means, like a scale, your cost of living tax is going down. So as your currency worth is going up automatically, supply and demand, this happens. We find easier and easier methods to produce the things we need and want. That's the why and wherefore, why your currency goes up. You understand? It's not hard to understand. If you read Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, the greatest asset that any nation can own is its labor force. And we all have a right to share in the assets. Assets are resources. Resources are assets. Just like rights are entitlements. Entitlements are rights. Even though these are trigger words for a lot of people, this is the way it is. So if you believe in God, then you know you have a right to share in those assets. And those assets are human resources. The labor of men, the willing labor of men, not by slavery, which is something we have. This came up with Kanye West and TMZ Studios, this slavery thing. We're all slaves. Here's a quote from me, that the most pathetic slave is one that is oblivious to the fact that they were born a slave, okay? That's it. We're all slaves, just like I pointed out. And this stuff's been going on. And what he said about 400 years, I get what his point he was trying to make. Okay, I mean, what do they always say? Freedom isn't free. I mean, the degree of tyranny you live under is the degree you accept. What is the motto of New Hampshire? Live free or die. To me, that's what all he was saying when he got pissed off. He was tapped into a spirit. It was like he was in there with a den of jackals just waiting to pounce on something he said, to murmur under their voices. So nobody knew where it came from, maybe, or something like that at first. But when they were set off their leash by Van, they just attacked him like jackals in there. And he was tapped into that spirit beforehand, intuitively. So when he started saying some things that triggered people, I know what he was trying to say. I got it. Okay, so what? I mean, he doesn't say stuff the same way you think stuff or say stuff. He has his own style, his own way. I mean, we're all completely different. There is no two individuals alike. Give the man a break. He's a human being. But for you to condemn him, is just, to me, that's really immoral. So I get it. That's all he was saying, was live free or die. What the hell? 400, you put up with that crap for 400 years? Live free or die, idiot. I mean, that's it. Plenty of white people have been slaves, too. Every color, brown people. Okay, we're all slaves. Okay, believe me, if it meant your very survival, you would become a slave too. And like I've pointed out, how many guys today, okay, would love to be your slave. Oh, forgive me, euphemistically, your servant, okay? They would kiss the ground you walked on if you adopted them as your slave. Remember, a slave you had to take care of. You had to take care of their basic human needs: food, housing, potable water. Okay? Do you understand? You had to provide their energy needs. They had to be able to start a fire when it was cold, this sort of thing. So you calculate how much that would cost to do today for somebody. And you tell me that the millions of these homeless people out there in America wouldn't love to be your servant, to be your slave, to be adopted by you. And then all these people that call themselves liberals are going to get all sanctimonious. They're not liberals, okay, about the immigration issue. And yet you're willing to let native sons and daughters die out on the streets with all these mental health issues. We got all these veterans, all these adult foster children that don't have places anymore. They don't have any place in society anymore. There's all these disenfranchised misfits that Scripture defines on. The Scripture says, look, the poor should exalt in their high position. You see, the way that men see things and the way God sees things are often diametrically opposite. And you got to admit that and face it. Yeah, it might be traumatic for you. But the things that are highly valued among men are often detestable in the sight of God. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the way it is. Yeah, some of this is generalization, but I mean, the way God thinks, love your enemy. Harvey Levin wanted to dispute this whole thing. I don't buy that. I don't believe that. All this, I mean, so he doesn't believe, he tells you straight, I do not believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. That Harvey Levin, believe I'm smarter. But he didn't even point to a prophet he believed in. He didn't bring up Moses, the fact that he's a Jew, and this is what he's relying on. But then you could say, well, Kanye didn't bring up Jesus, but that's kind of where he was coming from on that. That's where the whole forgiveness thing comes from. Love your enemy. I know it's tough. I know it sounds stupid on his face. And I've always asked, I said, well, how in the hell do you forgive somebody that's not even sorry, that they're still reveling in how they offended you, and you feel they need to apologize, and you feel that, you wish that you could forgive them, but, as long as they are unrepentant, then you can't forgive them. I get that. I mean, look, you think God doesn't get all that? That's why he's so compassionate, long-suffering, and merciful, and slow to anger, and quick to forgive us. Okay, well, we've got to emulate him and seek to be more like God, you know what I mean? Not to be more like the people of this world. We've all got to come together under the banner of humanism and just the species, the human race, this family, and that is the right way to live. You want happiness? Live like a family, for crying out loud. Until we learn to do that, until we, sincerely, genuinely, in our heart of hearts, in our mind of minds, we care as much about the least of men, whoever you perceive that to be, as we care about ourselves, then we will not attain happiness, because God is a granter of happiness. And until we're really living like a family, we're not going to have it. So it doesn't matter how upright you are, how religious, and how pious you live your life, and righteous, and all that kind of thing. Okay, you're still inextricably interconnected through osmotic reasons. I pointed out that we're human beings. We share the same blood. We're vibrating together on an invisible level here. Okay, we're feeling human suffering. Believe me, even if we don't know about it, even if we don't have mass media, we know there's suffering going on in the world. We know when there's war and terror. We can feel it in our bones. We know what's going on through osmosis. So we've got to care. That's it. That's the way to happiness, is to make sure that your fellow man, the wounds are bound on him. And to me, the wounds are hemorrhaging on the downtrodden. And that is, yes, you're homeless. You're abjectly poor people that are, it's horrible. And they're hated and persecuted by so many people. And God gets that too. I mean, you're gonna defecate on somebody's front sidewalk of their house or in their alley, and they got children. I mean, you think I don't get it? You think God doesn't get it? But the devil is in the details. That's it. All these things that divide us. This has been deliberated. Okay, this is on purpose. This is artificial. This is conjured up. It's manufactured. The austerity. Do you understand? Nobody needs to be abjectly poor. There's plenty for everybody. Prove me wrong. Okay, I know the nuts and bolts about what I'm talking about here. I know for a matter of fact, poverty could be, at least abject poverty could be ended worldwide in extremely short order. They can't have that. Who is they? The establishmentarians, the status quo. the money masters of misery. I've told you, these grand puppeteers that are pulling the strings over us. They don't want it. That means we're set free. The captives are essentially set free. If you want something extra, if you want nice things,